Jus Riffin. Tuesday night, 8:30 EST. Know where we be, Jus Riffin. Special guest and tech and talk, a musicology, Jus Riffin. Coming to you live at the same time, here every week, Jus Riffin. Jump in the room, let's chop it up. It really ain't that deep, Jus Riffin.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's another Tuesday night. This is the 14th of January, 2025. We have a special guest on our show tonight. Our show is based around music and tech, but every once in a while, we love to have artists that actually do really cool art and creative stuff. So very, very happy and excited to chat with our guest tonight, Adamtastic. And I've been following him on the timeline for a while now, and just, you know, he rubs elbows with other cool artists that I like as well. And so I'm happy that he's on the show. I am Hefner, one of your co-hosts. I got Cookie Rabinowitz, my beautiful and awesome co-host. How you doing today, Cookie? What's
I'm doing really good. You know, a very solid day. I felt like I got a lot accomplished. So far, 2025. I haven't let myself down yet. I hope I keep it up that way. How about you, Heffa? I know you've been grinding really hard. I'm super. You know what? You've been inspiring my hustle, because I'm like, if Heffa's out there, hitting the pavement, I got to do it, because we can't have it.
Just keeping it moving, you know, for real. And I called you beautiful, and I mean that, you know, beautiful, and you're a beautifully amazing musician yourself. So yeah, man, just that's what it is. You know, we got to keep it moving, and keeping things keeping the lights on, you know, is really what it comes down to. And yeah, man. So we've been, where are we at? We're our second show. This is our second show of the year. I'm super stoked. We got thanks everybody for tuning in to Jus Riffin. You know, we're powered by Rug Radio. A lot of good things are going to be coming this first quarter. We spoke last week on some other stuff about what's going on. And so here we are today. What's good with music, Cookie? I know you've been still performing, and I know that you're making music as well lately. Tell us what's good with you. Any new equipment or anything like that you've been utilizing besides the AI stuff that we talked about? And we'll get into that a little bit today if you want. But I'm curious to know, like, what new things you've been doing on the music tip.
Well, I've been really leaning into being efficient. As I get older, I like to get more and more efficient, because once again, we're out there hitting the pavement. So when it comes time to be creative, we got to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to work, and no frills. And over the years, you know, it's funny, I want to share something really quickly. I had a really nice studio layout in Philly years ago, and it burnt down in a fire, and I lost everything. Ooh. And it was a blessing, because what I learned was I let myself become a pseudo kind of hoarder. I had a lot of shit that I didn't need, right? Yeah. And a lot of music gear. You know, we always like the shiny objects, or at least I know I fall a victim to it. And the funny thing is, after that, the positive experience I gained, I said, you know what? I learned so much from this, and I'm always going to travel light from now on. I'm never going to clutter myself up and have bullshit. And so that was 10 years ago, right? So lately, over the past month, I looked, and my life became a cluttered bunch of bullshit again. And I was like, wow, how did this happen? I wanted to move fast and stay light. And, you know, that whole Buddha vibe of, you know, never travel with more than you can carry on your back. I love that statement. I forget where I heard that from. Maybe ChatGPT taught it to me. I don't know. But anyway, I was like, this is ridiculous. I need to get new music done. Like, I'm out playing shows now, but I need to put out some new music first and foremost, because that's really what I do. I'm a songwriter. Before anything in life, I think that's what God wanted me to do. So I wasn't very efficient in my work setup. And I looked, and I was like, you know what? Forget all this stuff. I minimized everything to a really super efficient laptop, a really cost-efficient interface that you actually hit me to, the Motu M4. We're not sponsored by them. I just like the piece, you know. And then Ableton. I know, Hef, you're an Ableton head too. So we were both using the Push. And it's great. It's like a tactile way to interact and record with a computer, as opposed to just using a mouse and a keyboard. And that gets kind of like, you know, kind of soul-sucking in a way. You know, we want to touch buttons and knobs and tweak them and stuff. So I had this Push thing. I liked it, but they actually just came out with a new piece. And I'm sharing this because it's very current for me and it changed the game for me immensely and my efficiency and my workflow. This work piece, let me see, I'll put them in front of the camera. It's called an Ableton Move, right? And it's real small. It's a standalone unit. It basically has Ableton, like a light version of Ableton inside it that you can record and write with it. But not only that, it's like the optimum controller. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of Push, but just like the house that had too much shit in it, I didn't really use all the shit on this big Push piece. Now here's the clincher. So I don't know if you guys use Reverb when you're flipping gear, reverb.com is a music video. So I realized, I was like, you know what? I'm going to order a used version of the Move, test it out. And if I like it, I'm going to flip my Push. I got the Move and I was like, this is all I need. Now here's the clincher.
It was the right move.
It was the right move. But not only that, it's still early in the game. People aren't hip to Move yet. So I literally flipped my Push for the same amount of money that I got my Ableton Move for used, because I bought it used, because I like to buy everything used, because sometimes people test things, they don't like them, so you can make use of it instead of, make the manufacturers even more efficient too. They don't have to have a bunch of extra shit out in the world that people aren't going to use. But anyway, it's a game.
Hold it up on the screen so people can actually see what you're talking about. It is real small.
And dude, but here's the thing, there's a little speakers in it that aren't worth a shit, but you can plug headphones into it, but it runs off of batteries for about 4 hours. So I can literally be in my car and sketch out a song, then come in here, put guitars on it and drums or whatever I want to do. But not only do I love it for that, but my setup now, like, dude, I literally can set up and break down my whole studio. Like, I have a real nice mic. You can probably see it behind me. See the little screen there? That's like the most extra thing I have. Everything else is just my guitar and the laptop and the interface and this Move thing, and I can get it done. And speaking of getting it done, I want to add one other thing. Don't give up the bag though, because you gave me this really bizarre request. You sent me this bizarre thing. You're like, check out this song, and I think you almost did it half jokingly. And I was like, this is so
I never do anything half jokingly, because
oh wait, hold on a second, right there. You never do anything half jokingly. That's true. Wait, no, you're right. You only do things 200%.
Never have.
Right. But anyway, you sent me the song, and I was like, this is so ludicrous. Who would ever record this song? They'd be out of their fucking mind. Yeah. But I was like, but part of my 2025, just like I was doing the burpees thing that was on the timeline a couple months ago, is like not thinking what I would do, thinking what somebody else would do and running with that, because I want to experience what other people kind of feeling. So anyway, the suggestion you gave me, dude, I went hard in the paint on it. I had two of my really good friends, John Swana, world class. You can, Wikipedia him, whatever, EV player, trumpet player, and Eric Horvitz, I won't say, but Eric Horvitz, you know what I'm talking about, Adam. But anyway, so but Eric Horvitz was over here and he got behind the board. These guys are wizards. So I played them the idea I did that I kind of played you, and they were like kind of looking at me kind of side-eyed, but then they got it. And then I don't want to give up the bag yet, but next week, it's pretty fucking badass.
We're gonna let everybody hear it. Is that what's happening?
Yeah,
man, I really want to fucking hear it now. Quite honestly, can you play a snippet of it, or?
I don't want to. It's
Okay.
It's so cool that I don't want to disservice it. But anyway, I thank you for throwing that suggestion.
What it is?
Was that? No, because I think the way we need to lead into it is by showing the video that you sent me and then playing this version. I think that'll be the best impact. But not only that, I just wanted to thank you for that, because it's like you gave the suggestion, and I think for me, for my style, I don't like to use brand for artists, but I like to say for my style, for who I am, I think you really hit the mark on something that really allowed me to express that in a new way that I wouldn't have thought of myself, but it's totally Cookie Rabinowitz. And I'm really excited to lay it on the people.
I'm going to try and hold my tongue, and I don't want to mention the song, but this is one of my, it's okay. There's songs that in life, you listen to, and there's things that will bring you back to certain times and so on and so forth. And I don't use Spotify, I use YouTube Music. And so sometimes, I'm always creating playlists. And so sometimes the playlist runs to the end. and then YouTube will suggest, just like any other music platform, will suggest music in the same kind of genre or format or whatever. And so this comes on, and I was driving, you know, and sometimes you're driving, you're not really, you're just driving, you're focused on you're driving, you know, and the song came on, and I was like, oh, in my head, the memories of like my mom driving me to school and like in elementary school, and all those things came back. And then I rewound the song, and you know, because I needed to hear it again. There's a few songs like you know, not the one that I suggested for you, but like you know, on Broadway, you know, George Benson, and there's just so many, Jerry Rafferty. There's so many of those like old school, like classic rock jams, and just really cool, like just cool songs, you know, just that I didn't care what the genre was. It just, the songs were dope to me. And so I was like, I guess someone, not really, because I know that you can do it. And I was like, man, I would love to hear the friggin' Cookie Rabinowitz version of this song. And I was, when you played it for me the other day, it was unexpected. I wasn't thinking you were playing that, because we've been working on a segment for the show, and I thought that's what you were going to play for me.
Well, unfortunately, that kind of sidelined the other thing. That, and also, you know, when you get a new
That's
computer,
yeah,
like I was going through the whole reinstall everything, and then, you know, with the work schedule and stuff. But you know what you're saying about the music. First off, the genre thing, I love that, and that kind of doubles back to when Next Millenn was on the show a couple weeks ago,
sure.
because I love the way he put it. He said there are no genres. He said it's either good music or bad music.
That's
Now,
right.
I will lean into I don't believe so much as there's bad. I think that's a personal thing. Good and bad music is a personal taste.
Yeah.
But I love that, because you know, I think it's important to know our roots and know where we come from as individuals, but it's also special to realize that we're absorbing everything from everything we experience in life. And, you know, when I was a kid, we're talking about songs when we were a kid. It's funny because songs that I was like, oh man, this is corny as a kid and everything. And then this is cool. And as I get older, I've realized a lot of those things I thought were cool now I think are a little corny. And the things I thought were corny, well, that's kind of cool. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool to evolve too as artists and just see things around us and hear everything and just take it in. And oh my God, I must have said at the end of the day. And at the middle of the day, you know, when we take a look at these things, you guys don't notice, but we're actually hooked up to an Oracle chain link. And every time I say, I got to turn the button off. Hold on. I just turned it off for a second. Every time I say at the end of the day, Hef hooked it up to chain link, that there's a dunking tank I'm sitting in right now that's going to tip me in the water with sharks.
Right.
But
You throw the ball at you.
you know, but at the end of the day, oh shit, I turned the button back on just now. But at the beginning of the day, you know, it's what we're exposed to, and we just need to express ourselves as individuals and have fun. And it's not that deep, you know. It's not that deep how much Spotify pays us. It's not that deep if I play a wrong chord on the song and don't fix it with autocorrect. Let's just fucking do it, what we do, and have fun. And that's our voice. That's our own unique voices, and that's what I'm about here.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm with you on that note. Like everyone's like, you know, I guess like I would say, and I'm sure this happens around the world. Maybe I'll just use the United States because that's where we're at. But, you know, you'd be like, oh, what music do you like? Oh, anything but country, you know? And, you know, it's always like, or classical, or like, but dude, or dudettes, anybody, you know, there's fucking good music everywhere. It could be country. I got some cool ass country that I never heard of that's real funky shit. And you'd be like, what the fuck? This is country? Like, you know, or even some like orchestrated stuff. There's so many genres that have great music that for me, I eliminate the genre because I don't care if it's country, labeled country or labeled pop or labeled whatever. If it sounds good to me, I roll with it. I rock with it. No pun intended. But that's just the way it is for me. There's so much music. There's so much music. I used to go digging, you know, when I was a DJ, and we would go digging for records. This is what we call dig. And I remember there was a guy, rest in peace. He was like 80 when I went to go see him. This is like 20 years ago, okay? And he had a record store in Tamarack, Florida, and it was wall to wall, like floor. There was like stacks. I want to say there was probably like 3,000 or 4,000 records in front of his thing. He's like, I'll sell these all to you for $1,000. I was like, I don't need all, but I was going through all of his records. And then he opened up the back room for me, and it was 45s. And I was like, wow, incredible, because there's so many records that came out on 45 that never went to a 12-inch or went to the album. And I got picked up on so many, like James Brown on King Records, like 45s, like they were matted. It was like they were almost like as hard as a 78, right? And I just growing up, being around music, and then all these records. There's so many records. There's so much music that's out there, and there's so much that we'll probably never listen to. We'll never hear all of the music. Can you imagine sitting and listening to, like, hearing every song that was ever recorded? It would outlive you.
I'm not sure of this, but I think there's more songs released in one day than a human could listen to in a lifetime. I believe.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, people are making music left and right. Look at the tool that we were talking about, right? The move and the push. There's all these tools that you can use to make music. And speaking of all the tools, even AI makes music. So people that don't even know how to make music, or wouldn't even know what a chord is, or a melody for that matter, can do it with AI, which is just incredible. And which leads me to my question I wanted to ask you was, because we're musicians, right? I would consider you a way more better, higher level musician than I am. I just play drums, you do it all. So, but for you being a real fucking musician, are you using any AI, or have you dabbled with adding any AI aspects to your production?
I'm glad you mentioned that. And me and my girl talking just earlier about one of our friends. He's super talented, and he makes he's very successful making jingles and stuff for people, and commercial type of stuff. He's a great voice, a lot of singing. And people like him are kind of scared that AI is going to take their jobs. I don't believe that way. If you're great at what you do, and if you have soul in what you do, nothing's going to replace it, because but back to your question, I feel like it's my obligation as a explorer of this planet to dabble and touch everything that is thrown my way. Now, how I use it, or to the extent and levels that I use it at, I don't know, and I can't answer that yet. But I've been definitely having fun with it. And it's funny. Let's look at this as kind of an abstract way of looking at it. Like, I love making music, and I know how to do it. So I don't necessarily need it for that. However, I can't spell or do grammar worth of shit. I'm kind of an idiot. I use it all the time to fix that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I shouldn't ridicule somebody using that to help them inspire and be creative with music if they don't ridicule me for being a grammatical moron. So it's like and I think that's just cool. We can use these things. Like, I was talking to my friend, and I'll try to be brief. I know we're getting on with the show, but my friend Tony Reyes, he's an amazing songwriter. He's written a bunch of great stuff. And I always, whenever I get together with him, whatever I have as an idea, he just can nail it, like finish, like he can finish, and he knows like how to bring it to an end, like how to complete it.
And
I'm not always a great
completer. This is very hard. I want to interrupt you here. For people that are listening, we're talking about a song, right? So being a musician, well, I think one of the hardest things is to complete a song. And if you can actually go from start to end, completing it, you're a G. You're a true G in my opinion. All right, go on, Cookie.
100%. And also, if you don't do that, my recommendation, I give a hard recommendation to always try and do it. Not always do it, but always be conscious of that finishing it, even if the song is a piece of shit when you're done. It's a very valuable exploration, and it brings you a lot of and it brings a lot of skills by just finishing it, even poorly, even if it's worthless when it's done. But with that said, this guy Tony, he's great at helping me finish stuff, and he's like a library. Like, he's like, oh, this is what you meant to do, and he kind of helps me out. But the point I'm making with that is, I was telling him, I was like, a couple days ago, I wanted to lift the chorus of a song a little bit. So I wanted to change the chords. And of course, I know all the different chords I could have put in there, and I know the different key changes and the modulations or whatever. But I get into the optionitis because I do know all these things. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to talk to ChatGPT. Since Tony's not in the room, and since he can't be in the room today, he was doing some other things.
Sure.
I'm going to talk to ChatGPT and see what it recommends. And I told myself before, as an experiment, whatever it recommends, I'm going to go with it. And what it did was, it wasn't what it was better at me then. What it was better than me at was, it gave me its input, and it didn't give. I chose not to keep looking for options. I was like, whatever it gives me, I'm gonna take that. And then I also want to add that when that was done, I felt totally cool with it. Was my own. I felt I had soul. It was human quality, because I'm still playing. I still molded it and channeled it through me, which I'm a human being. And I want to add that to, Clive Davis back in the day was signing all these singers, Janis Joplin, Whitney Houston, this, that. A lot of these entertainers, they didn't even write their own songs at all, but they had a magical voice to them. And I believe that anybody that truly sings a song, that's their voice. And even if it's not a Whitney Houston voice or whatever, it's still your voice. And I believe that you can squelch any lack of soul as long as you're true when it's coming out. I heard Cyndi Lauper say in an interview once, I'm referencing some, but she said it was really awesome. She said that when she feels like she opens her mouth and sings, she feels like it's just like this light coming out of her. And I can relate to that. I think that it's kind of like, and I also want to, segue that just for a second to our guest, who is a visual artist. I think that's their voice. Like, your voice doesn't have to be your voice per se. It could be your tone on your fingers, or when you play guitar, your aperture, whatever you call it, when you're playing trumpet, your pen when you're drawing. As long as it's connected to the human, as long as the last release before it goes out into the universe is coming from a human touch, I think it's human. So
yeah. And before I want to get into the 2-minute tune-up real quick before we bring Adam on. And you mentioned Cyndi Lauper, so I know somebody, his dad wrote songs for Cyndi Lauper as well as other artists. So yeah, there's talents everywhere. You could be that writer that just cannot keep a tune, right? But you're writing the songs. But then you have that magical voice, let's say Cyndi Lauper or Whitney Houston or Ariana Grande. Like these voices are just like powerful, like amazing, but yet they struggle, or it's hard for them to write, but they can belt out the tune, right? They can belt it out. So there's a place for everybody in music. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to sing it, even though you wrote it, right? Do you want to take the 2-minute tune up? You want to jump on that, or you want to skip it today?
What time are we getting on? I definitely want to get
a couple minutes, and then let's bring Adam up. You want to do the 2 minutes and then segue into to bringing Adam up? We could pass on it and just bring Adam up, because I'm down to talk to him right away.
We'll do the 2-minute tune up next week. I know you wanted a remix of that theme anyway.
Yeah, true to that. I love it though. I love the tune up. Your jam is so jammy. All right. So let me pull something up here. Let me get this cracking, and really excited to bring our guest up tonight, Adamtastic. I'm going to play his show reel, and then introduce him, and we're going to get cracking with Adam. So everybody check this out. This is Adam's show reel, and this is our guest today. So enjoy, everybody.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to have Adam on our show tonight. Adam is an amazing artist. He's a creative director. He's a digital artist. He's just, and then, spreading the joy and the positivity, which is what we all want, what we all need in this world, which is joy and positivity, especially through the times that we've all been through. With everything that's been happening in the recent past. So without further ado, I want to bring to the stage Adamtastic. Adam, it's fantastic, Adam, to have you on the show. What's happening? What's cooking? What's cracking with you?
Wow. What's up, guys? Thank you. That was an amazing intro. I appreciate that. Cookie, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm very much used to being on the other side of this. So seeing that is pretty flattering, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent, man. Thank you for being a part of the show with us. Yeah. I know I asked you a while back, in 2024 to be with us, and so I'm excited that we're actually here doing it. Time flies, as we all know. So just glad that you're here. I did come across your art, on my timeline. It was 2024, and I give props where props is, where they're due, and I really, really dig and just dug what you've done in the past. So I'm just flabbergasted that you're here and happy to chat with you today in regards to your art and to what you've been up to and what's been going on. I know you're a father also. We spoke a little bit before, we went live here. So first tell us, Adam, because I know you were saying earlier that, that's not really the creative director side is, you're still doing it, but you're really more focused on art. But tell us about how you got into art. Like, what age was it, and what was it that kind of, sometimes everyone's like, when you're young, you want to be a musician, you want to be a police officer, whatever, an artist, it doesn't matter. And things change, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you realize, or when did you realize that art was the thing for you?
Yeah, no, great question. And I've been loving the show so far, by the way. I've been watching the whole thing, and I've been taking notes because I'm like, oh, you want to talk about music? Want to talk about AI? You want to talk about just so many things. I've taken so many notes, really fascinated. I'm always very impressed by people who do music and do it well, because that's I dabble, but that's not where my brain is wired. And so I'm always incredibly impressed by someone who can play an instrument. And if someone can play more than one instrument, I'm like, you're like the pinnacle of human accomplishment. I just don't understand it. So hats off to you guys.
Honestly, I want to cut you there, because I feel the same with art, because I love art and I get on my Procreate and I'm like, but there's no way I can comprehend what the heck you real artists actually do.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, like, for what it's worth, people say, well, what makes an artist? And I'm like, if you've ever made art, you're an artist. Like, it really is that simple. And I think that there's a beauty in that, because it really is, it's so subjective, and it's so easy to just do anything. Art is whatever you do to express yourself in any language, whether it's a visual or auditory language, or whatever it is. So for me, that's I hear people kind of like not take their own like an ownership of their abilities, because they're never where they want to be. No one's ever where they want to be. Like, that's the secret, right? Like, I do things. I know so many of my peers, right? We do stuff, and if we're lucky, we're happy with what we've made. And if we're extremely lucky, it's for more than an hour. And, because we're going to see everything that was like a flaw, everything that we're like, oh, I don't know. And I've come to really appreciate certain things that I've made, but, and even over time, look back fondly. But I mean, it is, your art is hard, because you're never going to, you're always in pursuit of perfection, and you're not going to be where you want to be. Like, that's the struggle, right? Like, and even if you get to that point, you're always like, I mean, that's what drives a lot of us, is that you're always trying.
For sure. Hey, Adam, I want to interject on that. As you as an artist, because I understand that, and I'm interested on when you decide, or how you decide, if you're gonna actually put something out there for others to enjoy or not. Like, do you have a governor on that, or do you just say, even though I think I could have done better, I think this deserves to be out there? Do you have any type of gauge that you go by? Do you ask like your
Yeah.
wife or?
Yes, that's a really good question. I'm like evading your other questions, not intentionally.
Oh,
You're
good.
asking, like 10 questions, so I'm like, well, what about this? Because I'm happy to talk about, like, you know, I've done art my whole life, and I've had really supportive people in my life, like my parents and things like that, like growing up, like in terms of pursuing. To get back to that other question, man, I could talk for a long time about all this stuff, but
We're good. We're in no rush. Take your time.
because like, yeah, so okay, I'll backtrack and then I'll come back to yours, Cookie. So for Hef, I got into art just as a kid. I really loved it, and I also I'd say when I was always fascinated by movies and storytelling and figuring out how things were made. And so I used to get books and watch shows growing up about productions, like movie productions and whatnot. And I was fascinated by the visual effects side, and that led me down a path of early computer animation, you know, pre-Pixar, and that led me into, you know, early Pixar. And that was sort of like, I had always wanted to go into art and animation, but I didn't think it was a viable career until around like the time when just before Pixar was coming out, around that time. Again, you know, clearly I'm older, right? But I remember that when it was a turning point, and and I'm grateful to like my parents who saw that also, and I said, look, I think I want to try to do this. And so that's when I went into, so I actually have I have a background in animation, I have a master's in animation, wound up going to school for all of that. And when I got out, I had a lot of friends who wound up going to big studios and Pixar and other places, and the animation side I enjoyed, I appreciated, but they would animate circles around me, and I was like, what part of this do I really love? And it was the storytelling, and that was what I was better at than the animation, to be honest. And so I wound up going, that's when I made my like leap into more commercial stuff, and wound up becoming, you know, doing animation, but parlayed that into like, I built a department of people to animate, and to see a vision that I, you know, I would come up with ideas, or, you know, work with people to come up with ideas and brands and things like that. And I would help, you know, execute on that, and as a creative director. So that's sort of like how that went. But I was always making art on the side until 21, you know, end of 2020. And that's when I was already making art and paintings and whatnot for years. End of 2020 is when my buddy Brian Brinkman was making art.
I love Brian too. He's another amazing artist.
He's the best. I can't say enough good things about the man. And he had a drop at the end of 2020, and I didn't understand anything about it. And he was like writing like NFT, blockchain, blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I want to know more. And he was very gracious with his time. He'd spend 2, 3, 4 hours a night at like 2 a.m. with me, just like, and I was writing everything down. Like, I got to mint. This is minting. This is where it works. So I did all of that for like weeks, and that's how I got into the scene of like, you know, digital art, NFTs, crypto art, all of that. And I've been full-time, more or less, like I've taken, you know, other jobs, creative director jobs, you know, animation jobs here and there, but I've mostly been full-time artist since then.
Interesting.
So that's how I got there.
Okay, cool, man. And you know what? I want to. It's noble of you that you actually realize that, you know, the animation, you were stronger in maybe something else, you know, and not so strong doing that. You said it yourself, right? The other people were running circles around you. This happens sometimes where you still have that passion for it. And I think it's great that you were able to filter out, I guess, and kind of weave yourself in and out of what it was that you were doing to get to where you are, in the sense of creating the visual art that you've been doing.
For sure. And it was really like being around. One of the best parts. So I wound up going to get my master's, not that because I wanted a master's, but because I really felt like I didn't get what I wanted out of the undergrad that I went to. I went there for animation, and for 2.5, almost 3 years, I didn't get almost any animation from there. But I was kind of pot committed to a degree, so I stayed. And then after that, I was like, well, I gotta learn animation, like, for real. And I was I went to a great school, and it was very I was thrown into the mix with just the most talented people I've ever met, and it was inspiring. And I worked my butt off to try to, like, level up, and I did. But what I really discovered was, like, I loved coming up with ideas and working in teams, and working with people to execute the vision, right? Like, so whether it was my vision or a shared vision, I was like, I can, like, lead this stuff. I can, like,
Mm.
put a group together, and I can come up with an idea, and I can get people who are better than me at different things, and we can all work together and get the best out of them to do, like, let them do their thing. Here's
That's
what
how
I'd like it to do.
it comes together. If you try to do it on your own, it's friggin' hard, man. And
It
then
is.
you
It's
end up
crazy.
running around, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So very cool. Cookie, we can't hear you.
I was going to say, let's just interject too, all the great bands that are great bands, and when they go to become solo artists, they just dip off because the egos get in the way of the art. When they work collectively, that's where the magic and the chemistry happens.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly. And I really like, and so I made a lot of connections with people in different disciplines who were good at different things, right? And so at one point, I became friends with a guy who's a musician, and his name's Nate Terry. He's just a phenomenal composer, and I worked with him on, like, my senior thesis, for my degree, and afterwards I wound up going to agency life, and anytime I needed something, like, composed, I was like, well, I got a guy, right? And so and the beauty of working with him was, like, I could I have all these voice memos. Pardon. I have all these voice memos on my phone of me humming and just and I would send them to him. I'm like, you know what I mean? He's like, oh no, I got you. Hold up. And then he would just, like,
That's awesome.
magic that stuff. I was like, oh my God. And he was like, right, but, like, it's missing this tempo. And I'm like, I don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
sure. I just know it sounds kind of cool if it does this. And he's like, well, let me do this. And I would never, like, when I work with somebody like that, I'm just like, here's my idea of what I think I want, and now you go do your thing, and let them do, like. And he's like, you just riff on that and, like, make a thing. And I'm like, and that's why you're good at what you do. So yeah, it kind of, like, that was my favorite part of all of that. And so that's sort of, like, where all that came together, and just my respect for all the different disciplines. And yeah, so I mean, that kind of, like, that was kind of rambly, but that gives some insight into me and my process, I guess.
No, it's good, man. Thank you so much for that. I mean, there's just so many ways that you that you're creative, and it's just you have all those tools at your fingertips, and it's great that you can ask somebody, hum something or whatever, and then they can belt it out for you exactly what your vision is. The same with being a creative director. It's having those people that are the tools to help you achieve the goal, which I think is great, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, just to circle back on the AI tip for a second. It's funny though, because you talk about humming that, and I remember an article years ago I was reading. I was like, the singer from Jamiroquai, their band is pretty intense, the music, and he was saying, man, I wish there was a way to just hum something in and then just have it, like, this is a sax, and have it do it. And now there's actually tools. They're not amazing at it yet, but there's tools that do that. You can in Ableton, you can mouth a kick drum and a snare, and then push the playback, and it'll replace your voice for an actual kick drum sample and a snare. Same thing with a melody line, a bass line. It's boggling.
That's crazy. It's crazy because, like, AI is really just touching every single aspect of not just creative production, but productions of all sorts, of all jobs, right? And to circle back to what you were saying earlier, and it's muddy, right? Because I know you were saying, if someone if someone has what was it, like, has heart and has been doing this for a long time, your friend who was, like, worried that AI might take their job, and you're like, it's not going to take their job. I do wonder, and I agree, that if someone's been established and is really solid, right? Like, I would that person likely has really good connections, really good footing in the industry. I wonder, though, how difficult it will be for up and coming people, right? Because let's be honest, like, anytime, so budget is what drives a lot of this. And sadly, cheaper, faster, that's where things go in any industry. Like I remember when I started at Agency Life, we needed something composed. It was a no-brainer. We were thankfully working with some really large clients with big pockets, and I'd say, like, this is what it actually costs, and my guy would get paid, right? And over time it would be less and less, and then we didn't want to pay him less, so we would ask for less, songs. But I can very much see, at some point they were like, well, we just need stock music, we can get by with stock. And I'm like, you can, but I can't like really give you to the beat. Like I can craft something where I can edit something and he can put music to the edit, and I can edit to the music, and like we can have a nice marriage. And they're like, yeah, but like, we don't care, like it would, there's that where I worry then that the next evolution of that is, yeah, but like I own this company and I can just type in Suno and be like, this, and be done. Because it's sadly, a lot of the, at least commercial work, is disposable. It's disposable art. And and that's like sort of like the sad, interesting and gray area to things. Of course, I agree that the human touch is super important and very needed. But I also know, depending on what the output is, I've seen it go the other way, and I'm like, I can see people who used to hire me, to put all these things together, just being like, I don't really need any of that. I can make something
business, right? They're business people. They're not creatives, and it's like they need the creatives to make the business, right? To make the money, but they don't understand that, like, being chintzy or
yeah. Well, no,
a cheaper route.
I feel like they is a group of people. They don't understand, but there are people that do understand, and then there's people that just fuck around and find out, and that's cool too. The thing is, it's like there is disposable music, but then again, there's commercials, and there's people that use music, and it's not so disposable, and that's the choice of the hands that make it. I mean, and I always think there's going to be boutique work available for people that really do what they do. And then not only that, I think as of now, so far, I think it's a fair trade-off, because when I was a kid, I could never dream of recording music. You needed a backer, you needed either a label or development deal. It was tens of thousands of dollars to record a shitty EP that the engineers didn't even really care about too much, unless they got the big budget later, or they knew they were going to get it.
Right.
And for me, I would rather make it tougher to slug it out to make a buck off my music, but have this amazing set of efficient tools that I can create whimsically whatever I feel I want to create at any time of the day or night. And it's such a fair trade-off in my world. And I also want to double back and say that too, with years ago, some television placements I got, it's funny, like I got in the door when it was good, and then it started getting like the back end pay is always there. That's publishing. But the front end pay that they would give you up front, the first time I got a deal like that, I was like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. The very next one I got after that was like half as much as that one. The very next one after that was like half as much as that one.
Right.
And then the one after that was like $500. And then the ones after that were like, well, you don't get anything off the front end, but we pay you your publishing still. And that's pretty much the way it is a lot with sync licensing and television and now stuff and everything. Unless you're assigned, a marquee name artist. But if you're like an indie guy, they're like, okay, well, you're going to get your publishing because you own it. But the front end of the deal, you can kick rocks because we can get any schmuck to do it on their iPhone now. So, but it's still fair.
But I think I think at some point, the pendulum will swing back, right? Like as it does with everything. I think there's at some point, they say cream rises to the top. It's often true in any industry. And when you see a really good commercial, it may be disposable, but a good commercial sticks with you for years. Right? Like it pulls at your heartstrings, or it does something to you that really just like sticks in your brain. And I think we're still going to see that. And I think that we're eventually going to have people kind of come back with, handmade or whatever, you know, like that will be more desirable at some point. Because it's just a matter of time, right? Like I think that's something that'll happen based on just the just how big things are right now in this moment.
Mhm.
It's going to come to a head where it's going to beg to go the exact opposite way. I don't,
Yeah,
things like this always do.
the human will get tired of the AI, and that it's, you know, the same output really somewhat.
Yeah.
Who knows how far it's going to go, but yeah, it will pull back to you know, people, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole young surgeons of kids too that are really into you know, just like all the high def that the what you know, the 4K video, 5K video, whatever. There's a lot of kids that are just really vibing with really raw, unedited footage of visuals and audio too. There's cultures, little communities of people that all they do is record music on cassette tape. You know, so there's still those little niches too, you know, that there's always going to be room for people, I think, doing what they do, as long as they
Yeah.
stay positive and work hard, you know.
Yeah. And I saw an interview, saw snippets of I'll say an interview the other day. It was and I don't know offhand, I don't know the person's name, I apologize, but it was the person who created the Suno app,
Mm.
talking about
Oh, Satan was his name.
nice. Yeah, so but he was talking about, like, you know, and coming at it from a very tech perspective, a very, you know, so much so to the point where I think the comment was, you know, he was I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it was, the gist was, people, it's hard to make music and people don't like that it's hard to make music, and our thing makes it easy for people to make music because it's so difficult. You have to know and learn all these instruments. And, you know, I think the person interviewing them was, you know, kind of gave a little bit of a back response saying, like, you know, is it though? Is it hard, or is that a problem? And he said, you know, he doubled down because it's his software company, it's what he does. And he said, yeah, it is hard, it is a problem, and we're solving it. But you know, I'm in chats with a bunch of artists, and the response was very, you know, wow, we really love the process. Like that's the
Oh,
part we love. What comes out is great. The song is great, but getting there is the struggle, is the process, is the love, you know, when, you know, and especially like, and because at some point, yeah, there will be kids who will make some really cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without ever knowing how to play music.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. But I think, but I don't think it's going to be the replacement. I don't think it's going to be the norm. I think there will be a beauty, like I said, in human made, you
Yeah,
know?
I agree with that. I think, you know, pardon me, like I use ChatGPT all the time. I use Claude. We've been dabbling with AI, you know, trying to figure out AI agents. We're trying to do other working with like Bolt to create a prototype for a product that we're actually working on. And I was talking to one of our family friends, DJ Ty, who's part of the Rug Radio and Rec family. And he's a real dev, like he's a real person, right? And we were having this conversation as well. But it is like, yeah, we can use this stuff. It'll write the code, but we still need to get in there and edit that stuff. It's not like it's just going to do everything for you. You still need the human element in there. So I really feel like I think AI itself is cool. It's a novelty. It's fun. I use it for certain things, writing wise, or like Cookie for grammatical things, you know, because I suck as well. but I do really agree with you guys. The human element is really what matters in this case. And it will always, like you say, the cream of the crop, it'll rise to the top. And that's really what it's going to be. I really do feel like AI itself right now, it's a novelty and it's fun for everybody. It's something different. It's a new game. It's a new toy, you know? And so, yeah, I really
also
do
see
feel
it
like,
as I also see it as a tool, right? Like I think there, you know, not to, you know, negate my own purpose, but or, you know, point from earlier. But I do think that, you know, like Cookie was saying, you know, I'm not good at grammar, so, you know, Grammarly helps. I'm not good at, you know, writing, so writing helps. I think when when it is used, like, as a tool for what it can do, especially, in an assistance kind of role, right? Like a couple, like, my gosh, it was maybe 2 years
Right,
ago.
exactly. Assistance.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I also think it depends on what the output needs to be, and does it meet the moment for what it needs to be. So I was doing a project a couple of years ago, and we needed it to be a very large scale project in a very short amount of time. And we needed background art, and we needed a lot of it to make it look really interesting and to be varied, but it was a small team, and it would have taken away a lot of time from the main character pieces that we were working on.
Mm,
And we went with AI, and we
mm.
went there, and we
Okay.
didn't we had one person on the team generate thousands of images, and we humanly curated it, right? We didn't just say one and done. It was one and then 500 of the same type of thing and what looks good. And then sometimes we would go in and physically, manually change things or edit things if we needed to. But it was a way more efficient way to get at scale and for what it needed to be, right? Like it was never, it was never like hidden that, oh, they used AI. It didn't matter, right? Like it was sort of like secondary to the main art, or whatever the purpose at the time was. We weren't trying to pass it off as something that it wasn't, but it was a
Mhm.
very big help in that regard, that it could just like completely fill out a world. We help build a world that we were trying to create.
Fast. I want to jump into this here, which is this is how I found you, Adam. Like you were on my timeline. This was on my timeline, and I had not known about you prior to this intangibles, and this
Yeah.
was like one of those projects. I love visual art. I love art. I love pop art. I love visual art, and this to me was different that I was seeing on my timeline. And I want to know a little bit about this. I want to know what's the origin of this? Why did you do, why this? And they're all unique. They're all different. They're all moving. They're all jumping around. They're all doing different things. Let's talk about intangibles, because this is AI cannot do this.
I mean, I don't know, but I hope not with the hopefully it can't.
But AI did not do this.
AI did not do this. No.
Yeah,
This
this is Adamtastic 100%. So listen to this journey here, intangibles.
this is it's funny. Yeah, I appreciate it, really. And this is this is one of my babies, right? Like as far as like projects go, it took me quite a while. It took me months to put this together, and not because it was technically hard, but because I poured so much of myself and intention into it. So intangibles, and thank you for that. I'm glad it caught your eye. It's 42 pieces that are all hand drawn. It's technically one of X, but each one is a one of one.
Let me pull. Go, keep talking.
Yeah, yep, no problem. And so each one, how did it come about? I guess I'll high level what it is it's a way for me to try to visualize emotions and visualize concepts that we all relate to. And I hadn't seen anything like this done before, and I was just sort of sketching on my own. And I love the idea of like I wanted them to feel tangible, and so that's sort of where the shadow box idea came from. Is that I could put them in, so in an object. I hand painted all the shadows, as well.
It's incredible.
So cool.
Thank you. And I sat with each one of them and versioned them out, and some of them I knew what I wanted the emotion to be to start. Others I would just make the thing and then sit with it and realize what it was in terms of what emotion it felt like. It was the process was twofold, in that, like, sometimes, like I said, I knew what it was going to be, and other times I wasn't sure where I was going, but I loved it. I scrapped a whole bunch.
I want to see the
So
scraps.
cool,
That's
man. These are just so cool, man.
I want to
Thank
see
you.
the B-side.
Thank you guys. Yeah, it's actually, I'm very proud of it, and it's gotten a lot of attention. It was in Art Basel this past year.
Wow.
And it's been on over 1,000 billboards in Belgium. It's been around.
Really
Colle-
incredible stuff.
very, very happy with like some really amazing collectors in the space that have picked them up. Technically, it's actually still minting. There are a few left. When I put this out, I kind of understood that they're not super expensive, but they're not super cheap, and they're one of ones, and so they're meant to be, for someone who really gets it and connects with it. And I understood that could either sell out quickly or more likely would take time. And I was comfortable with either. Obviously,
What are they minting at right now? Like what are
that's a minute. Give me a second. I think that
.088
0.088
on E?
ETH. Yeah.
You can't see this one. Let me pull this one out. I like this one. It's pretty cool too. I mean, they're all friggin' cool. Like, I could definitely see this in a digital frame, and like, this is definitely something that, people come over and they're like, what is that?
I wanted things that would loop, that would not be obnoxious, that could
Right.
work, like you said, in a digital frame. They're meant to feel
Annoying,
like
right.
physical sculptures. They're meant to feel like kinetic physical sculptures.
Mhm.
That capture the emotion that I was feeling, that I felt, at the time. I really, and it was a challenge to make them look good, especially as gifts and minting them. And I worked with Manifold, which those guys are great. And we had set up like a custom page for it in a way that, like, using their gallery system that hadn't been done. And they were very nice about, in terms of like, developing like little extra tools to help make it, pop.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's I'm very proud of it, and I appreciate you talking about it. And like I said, when someone collects one of them, I'm over the moon, because because I know that they've connected with that piece, right? Like, that's not less of like I'll just get this thing. There's a lot of intention behind it, and then connection with whoever made the purchase to collect it, because I feel like the people who are getting it I've been fortunate, are good stewards of the pieces themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$283. This is, I gotta figure out, because I definitely want one. If they're still minting, I definitely need to have one of these in my collection. This is just, I got to figure that part out, because I got to maneuver money around. But the ETH.
All good. And I made them in the bear. So in the bear, I was like, these seem really affordable in the bear.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing that we're coming out of the bear. Hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed. But it's one of those things where I was like, well, I think they'll be reasonable in a bear or a bull. I think it. I didn't want
reasonable.
Yeah, I didn't want them
More
to
than reasonable.
be devalued, but I also didn't want them to be so far out of reach from people. Like, I wanted them to be in wallets, right? Like, I wanted them to be in collections. I don't like, name dropping, but I'm very happy with the people who have collected them so far. Like, I'm proud of that list too. So it's really cool.
Other artists as well have collected, and
Other artists and collectors who, of note, that are, I'm proud of it. I'm proud whenever, they get recognition. Seeing them like on billboards and stuff, that was incredible. Having the chance at Basel, and they were in scope at Basel, and I curated a long 6 cube grid of six of them. Maybe it was more than 6, I forget. But basically, I made a long strip, and I re-exported all of them, and higher res, and made it perfect for this thing. And it was like they had a giant stage of screens, and it all connected. And people the feedback I got from that was fantastic too, because it felt like it was appropriate for the space. So it was, sure. I'm very happy with the series. And
now you mentioned Billboard, so it was in Billboard in Europe, right?
Yeah, it was. And I made them specific. Like, I went in and I retooled the pieces so that they would fit the dimensions of whatever billboard. So if one was long, if one was special wide, whatever it was, because I didn't want to just like slap it in. I was like, I gotta make sure these things pop.
Gotta
Because
look right.
this is my baby, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so why? What was the billboards for? Like, what How did you connect there?
Yeah. So okay. So what do you call it? That was Art Crush, the Art Crush Gallery, and then that was what do you call it? Arthur Mort. I don't know if you're familiar. He was a curator. He was working for them at the time, and I had. I don't apply to too many things for open calls and show your art here. A lot of them are scammy and also just like I don't like begging, especially on a timeline. I don't like being like, who, and when a big collector says like, I'm buying art, well, show me what you got. I'm like, that's 2021 vibes. Like, you're not going to get me on that. I'm not going to, I don't need to be the guy going, ooh, look at me, sir. Please, may I have some more?
Agreed totally. My only caveat to that is I still do beg for allocations of airdropped shit coins. But besides that, you're
a whole other world, man. That's life changing. That's Jenny wealth. But I'm not doing that. But like occasionally I'll see something that I'm like, it's worth it for me to at least just like pipe up. And I felt like this collection would fit that bill, and so I put it out there as, again, it was just like, here's what I've got going on. If you like it, you like it. No stress.
Okay. I want to ask you on the mint. If anybody goes to Mintus, is it a random, or are you going and you're picking what you like and then buying it there like that, or is it a random, like how when you mint something it kind of just shoots out whatever?
Yeah, good question. It was very important to me that you pick what you want. Because I and yes, that cost more for me to do technically, right? Like I had to mint each one of them. I could have just put them in a random mint and then said like, good luck. But I feel like that it did a disservice to the collector and to the art, because when I would share, so I shared these, I don't, and this kind of gets back to your point about like, when do I choose to share? What do I choose to share? There are some drawings that I choose to share because come from the heart, and I feel like they're just begging to be seen. And other times it's sort of like testing the waters, right? So like for weeks I was making these in real time, and for weeks I would just put the name of the piece and like very little info about it, and people would be like, well, what's that? What is this? And people would gravitate towards different ones, right? Like some people would really love one, really, and they would talk about the feelings that they had from each one. And that kind of like proved to me that, okay, if I ever do this, it's either editions and someone's going to want to get the ones that they like, or one of ones, because it couldn't be a random mint where, I mean, yes, you could do it and then you get whatever you get. And then you might want to trade it, but like how obnoxious, right? Like if you really liked, a piece and you were like, oh, damn. I said, look, here they all are. And so that was sort of like the idea. Manifold has kind of since changed sort of like how the back end works. But at the end of the day, they are all minted one of ones. And someone could click on it to see if it was minted. Unfortunately, I think the way the page works now is like it's a little bit less clear as to what's still available. Maybe I need to do a refresh post of like, here's everything that's still available. But essentially you would go to the site, you would go and find which one you like, and you would see if it's minted or not. And you would collect it.
Cookie, a question real quick. Cookie, you said you had the button on. So when anyone said, at the end of the day, they get dunked. Dude, Adam is still here.
Oh.
You didn't get dunked.
Oh,
well, I turned it off for the guests.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I
appreciate
when
that.
they're cool guests.
I appreciate
we don't get that luxury though. We get right to the sharks. But but while we're here, man, I love what you said. I can really resonate that from a musician and a songwriter would really appreciate what you said earlier about how when you were doing this project, sometimes you would have intention about what you were going to draw, and then sometimes you just drew it and then figured it out afterwards. I think that's really cool. And not only is it really cool, but when I look at these, and I was actually just looking at them on the site now because they're so much fun to look at. You guys were talking, I was looking at your collection. I kept clicking and it would say sold out. And I'm like, fuck,
You know?
But like all the ones that I first resonated with, I couldn't
Sure.
hold out. So, but anyway, but when I was looking at them and I was remembering what you said, like this whole set, like even though you kind of let them dictate what they would be, some of them, and then some of them you knew what they would be, the whole thing just looks very intentional to me, and it's such a cool, like, it's just such a concept, and it's like a thing, man. It's beautiful, man, and it's wild and it's cool, and I'm definitely grabbing one of these things. I don't know how yet. I think I can give plasma. There's a place down the street from where I work tomorrow I can give plasma at, and I think I'm going to do it because listen, another thing about these two. First off, they're very reasonably priced. This is serious art here. They're actually cheap. They're inexpensive because I can't call them cheap. But with that said, it's cool because this is something really cool. This is something cool, and it's not like it's not free, but it's there enough to where if you really want one, you can hustle, and for a lot of people it's not going to kill you. You might have to, like, I might not be able to get takeout food for the next few shifts at work, but to me that's a very fair price for that. I can skip takeout, you know. And this is shit. This stuff is cool, man. And one thing I wanted to comment on too, when you were saying how you framed it right for the billboards, I appreciate that too, because me and Hef have both been to some of these NFT and digital art exhibits, and to no fault of the artist, but sometimes where they're showcased, they really disservice it. Like they'll put like the wrong dimensions and proportions. And
don't get me started, man. We don't always get the chance, right? So like to the credit of Art Crush, pardon, they gave us dimensions. And I mean, I have a background in all of this stuff, right? So like video production, I have a background in, you know, filming and shooting and all the things, right? So it was beneficial, at least for me, to be able to just say, okay, great, I have the dimensions. I can literally go and resize, re-export, fix up whatever, and make it fit. And I appreciate that because we don't always get that choice. And they say, you know, well, we'll put your stuff on a billboard, send us the file. And I'm like, well, you know, if I don't have a chance to say exactly what the dimensions are, I'm like, oh crap, good luck to me. You know, like that's gonna, and then they're like, here it is. And it's like, what did you even look at it before you? Oh, you didn't, because you don't care. And that's why I'm like hesitant, depending on who or what I'm doing and where I'm, you know, putting these things. So, and there was a lot of thought behind the square versus, you know, rectangle, because like rectangle is great, and I wanted them, you know, a rectangle would be better for most people's screens. This is before I kind of like, you know, I was in the white walls ecosystem, but I didn't make them for white walls. But that's the kind of thing where I'm like, that wasn't as, it was prevalent, but it wasn't in my head. But I was like, I want these to show up on like the timeline nicely, you know. Like I did an early test where I did like a vertical piece, and it was really nice, and I posted it, and the action was down here, and I was like, oh, you don't see the shadow, you barely see the thing. It was like going like, you know, down here. It's like, I was like, this isn't going to work. Like
it kills the whole deal. Once that happens, it's like that was your elevator pitch to people seeing it, and it kills it.
Which on social media, like that kind of stinks, right? Because like I don't want to make these for social media, but it's a social media game. Like no one's gonna, you know, consider collecting these things if they can't really see them. And I only have 2 seconds in a scroll, if that, you know.
Right.
And so I was like, nah, these have to be for social. They got to be, you know. But I also just have, I adore a square frame, even though they're still not super affordable. And Infinite Objects is coming out with their stuff soon. That's, you know, gonna be square. But like, that's where they need to be. They need to live like in digital frames, and you know, in the meantime, they can live there and like, you know, here on the internet and whatnot. But that was the idea, you know, behind that. But it's the kind of thing that like, if someone collects one of these and really wants it on like their TV, I'll go and like re-export in a version that's not minted, but make it for them. You know what I mean? Like I'll go ahead and I'll just make this for someone's TV, you know, and stretch it the right way so that like the box stretches and not the art, you know?
Yeah. So it's not distorted. I want
Yeah.
to ask you while we're talking about intangibles, they're alphabetical, and there's one word for each one. You know, animosity. You know, you see here anxiety and delusion and entitlement. When you first came up with this project, how did you know which was going to be which? How did you determine which one was going to be which? You know what I mean?
In terms of like
In terms of naming them, like how did you know that that one that was you know, anxiety, that's the one that you was going to be anxiety? Like, was there another one that was anxiety before you chose the anxiety one? You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh,
how did you determine
yeah.
how to name them?
And this is sort of like to the, you know, to the point earlier about like, I would draw some of them. I would sit down and I would draw frustration. I would draw what, you know, I would know that I'm trying to emote, you know, and show people frustration. I'm trying to like get that out. And what is that to me? And
Mm.
and so, I mean, I don't know. I haven't done the numbers, whether it's 50-50 on this, but the other, you know, and that there were times where that was a lot of time was trying to get an emotion out. And then there were these like free expression moments where I would sit down and I would just have a blast, just like scribbling, moving, pushing shapes. And then I would look at it and I would sit with it. And sometimes it would be like, well, this is nothing. This is garbage. This isn't working. This doesn't make any sense. And then
Mm.
I'd come back to it a couple days later and I'd be like, if I put a little red dot there, that kind of does work though. That ties that in. And then I'm like, all right, well, what if I do this? And then suddenly I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, okay, that's despair, you know, or and so I'd say, you know, a couple clear examples of knowing what it is going into it beforehand are like despair, or like, you know, isolation, where, or solitude, where I've got intentionally, I've moved, you know, the focus to the bottom left corner and I've got this little tiny, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's one of the, let me see if I can pull it up, or you can pull up.
While you're doing that, I think these are really cool too, because you kind of put them, they're in a square, but they look like they're in like a box, like, you know, like the way that the 3D, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really cool that
Thank you.
because it's like sitting in this like box and like, you know, doing its thing. It's just unique looking to me. That's, you know, when I first saw it on the timeline, like you were saying, like, you know, the dimensions, and so I was like right away like, whoa, what the fuck is this? Who the hell is this? Who or what artist is this? And so it caught my eye right away, and I think I love it. I think it's really cool.
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to tell you one thing. First off,
Yeah.
I found 2 that I like, so I'm crossing my fingers nobody buys them in the
Which
meantime.
one? Which
I'm
one?
not
Well,
gonna
if he
tell
tells you, if
I'm
he
not gonna
tells you
tell you, yeah.
on a televised,
Snipe them.
I'm probably only gonna be able to grab 1. That's why I found 2. But
I'm
I want to
definitely
ask you
grabbing
this
one,
though,
for sure.
and I'm gonna get geeky with it for a second. I don't know, geeky is not the right word, but I'm just curious, like, on your take on they're on ETH, right? And I know a lot of artists are putting things on Base and even Solana, some, and like, I know what my opinion is of it, but I'd like to know your opinion on why it's on ETH layer
Sure.
1. Right.
Yeah. Okay. It's on. I went back and forth with this, as I do with every time I'm minting, right? Like, it is a very intentional decision to make where you mint something. So I kind of, for better or worse, I look at ETH as the main chain, or my main chain. I I am not an ETH maxi. I have put art on other chains. I've put art on L2s. It's I think additions are good for L2s. I think that now that we have all these different options, it becomes more and more clear that there's more friction and a little bit more cost to put something on ETH. And I think that I kind of like that. I think that that is a bit, for now, for what it's worth, it's a little bit more of a premium. And my main collections are on ETH. Um, and I love that there are cheaper options I did a collaboration that is on Tezos, and you know, like a long time,
Yeah.
like a year ago, like things that are super affordable and like, you know, easy and change just like, you know, fly. I think that different chains make sense for different things. And again, you can make the argument that, you know, you should only put your one of ones on Tezos or, you know, Solana. It's fine. I think that ETH for me has a premium appeal. And so I want my work to live on there. I have a little bit more, I guess, faith and hope in when I'm minting on there with, you know, using like places like Manifold, that my art will have longevity there versus like, you
Mhm.
know, Solana that could go down and disappear, you know. So that's the logic there, at least in terms of like why the more expensive things are there. And especially if I'm going to ask someone to pay a premium for something, you know, then I think that makes sense to me, at least for where I want to keep things like that, or one of ones, or one of X's. Obviously, early on, we didn't have reliable choices outside of that. And so, you know, if I came into the space today, would I do it? I don't know. You know, that's a very interesting and different perspective. You know, the first thing I ever minted cost like $300 to mint. You know, it was the height of, you know, or just before, it was like right at the start of, you know, the last bull, and it was crazy. And if that didn't sell, I got very dug into my ways. I was like, I'm not gonna buy anything or do anything until this sells. Luckily it did sell. It sold pretty quick for an ETH, which was amazing.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and I used that money to then mint my next piece, because you know, for $300 to mint something was kind of crazy. Of course, I had a chance to get Bored Apes, and I didn't, because I was like, nope, I'm not using this until this is for art. I said, I like the apes are cool, but like this money is going to be used to, you know, okay, great. Who needs $300,000? Who needs that?
Totally. But for the art piece, you know, what was the art thing, you know, this is like real. I mean, I'm saying that the other things aren't real art, but these are really, these pieces are really powerful, I think. And I like your take on just like the friction is a good, sometimes friction is a good thing. It's like, you know, like something like that's like, you know, beautiful, that's a lot of time and you know, was put into it, and soul has been put into it. It should have, it should be on, it should be a little harder to get, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I like that. And I think also too, you know, I used to was thinking about where I would put music, or where music would be good, and I always used to be like, oh, Solana, that's like some, and I'm an idiot, people, so don't get mad at me if anybody's listening, but I used to be like, oh, Solana, that's some bootleg shit, I would never throw anything on that, you know. I totally changed for that, where I think Solana is actually a very viable chain to interact with audio files. I think it's a different game, though. It's not like music is a totally different thing to sell than a visual piece. They're
For
different.
sure.
Not
Yep,
one's
for
not
sure.
better, not one's worse. And
Just a
obviously,
different beast.
yeah, it's a different beast. And I like the way Solana operates for music type of things.
Yeah.
But I love your take on it, though. And I agree with you, just for what it's worth or what it's not worth. I'm with you 100% on it. I think the friction, it makes it a little more like, hey, it's a thing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's at least where I'm, you know, where my head's at. And you know, I appreciate all the bigging up on this stuff. Like, really, I'm very proud of it.
Oh,
There's, you know, there's other stuff I've been working on for a long time. Like I have a decent body of work, but and there are some collections that have, you know, more accessibility in terms of, you know, price points and whatnot, because I want there to be, you know, different entry points to my work. But a lot of what I finally actually mint is after careful consideration and intention, you know, like that's, and
nice.
there's nothing against people who are, you know, minting every day or minting, you know, just whatever it is that they want. That's fine. But just the way that I've kind of like wanted to operate in the spaces, I'll share stuff on the timeline that isn't minted, all day, you know, like I'll put new
Mm.
art out, or I'll put sketches out, or I'll put work in progress. That's one of my favorite things to do, is put out work in progress. Like I'm working on something I'm excited about, and
Yeah.
I'm just like taking some, you know, behind the scenes shots. I'm taking like, you know, mid progress, and then I'm putting stuff, like I said, I put stuff out that is sort of like a, you know, kind of like a gauge. I'm like, you know, this is what
Yeah.
I'm doing, and then
Great.
see what the reaction is.
Yeah.
And then take that
Yeah.
with a grain, because who knows if the algorithm is, you know, happy that day, right? So like,
Mm.
it's also like, that's the trap of all this stuff that we're in terms of like, you know, sharing in social media. Because like if I put something out that I'm like, oh, I'm so excited about this, but I haven't posted on social for like 3 weeks, 4 people are going to see it, and I got to remind myself, it's not because 4 people liked it and that was it. It's because
Yeah.
4 people saw it, you know,
Yeah.
like, because it doesn't think I exist anymore because I wasn't, you know, hanging out every 5 seconds. So it's tricky. It's a tricky thing, but when you are in a groove, it is a good barometer for understanding, you know, how people are, you know, reacting to stuff. Like I have this whole series that I made, a whole bunch of these static pieces, and I haven't released them because I don't know how I'm going to do it, whether it's going to be additions or one of ones or what, and
Yeah.
they're physicals, and then I'm
Oh,
like,
I like physicals.
I'm very excited about them.
Turn your head and cough. Oh, sorry.
But it's tricky. Yeah, it's tricky.
It's tricky. You know, I think it's cool too that you, you know, aren't afraid to put stuff out, sketches and things like this, because a lot of times people hold it in and then it never gets seen because they're too much of a perfectionist, and they just are afraid to, or maybe there's fear and they're afraid to, you know, what are
Oh,
people going to think of it in a, huh? What's
Oh,
that?
there's fear. I mean, there's plenty of fear to go around. I'll put stuff out even confidently, and then like, you know, with a bit of healthy bit of fear, and like, I hope people like this. I mean, that's what we're a lot of us artists are doing. It's like, do you like me? Please like me. Please tell me
I
you like
never,
me.
I never understand. Like, I mean, and you know, everybody, but when people say, you know, like, I respect when people say, like, I make my art for me, and obviously we do. It's our
Oh yeah.
voices, but like to me, it's just so much better when the outside world embraces it and they love it and it moves them. You know, I don't know. It's I don't think there's something wrong with. I don't see a negative thing. Like I don't see it as like searching for validation. I see it as searching to connect with people, more like that, you know,
Okay.
connect. But
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I do genuinely make the art for myself. Like that's, you
sure.
know, I've figured out that like making art, you know, when it's not a job, is for yourself. And if you're trying to make art to, you know, please somebody else, when it's not a job, it doesn't connect. It doesn't land because
Yeah.
it's not actually for anybody. And if you're not doing it for yourself. And so yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it's yes, there is the, you know, please like me, but it's really more about connection.
Well, it's like, please
This is
like
something that,
me. It's not,
right.
let me act a certain way or do something for you to like it. It's like, here is me. This is what I did. And
Very
then but when
personal. Yeah.
people like it, it's like, it feels good, man. I mean, I don't think, and
Yeah.
I think that's a good, I mean, I don't know. I roll with that
I
notion.
mean, and getting the praise also is makes you feel good too. You know, it's you know, a lot of times you know, like you put the stuff up and it seems like, you know, you, like you said, 4 people seen it. So it's like you're like, feel like you're sitting in the dark, you know, and yeah, so it's good to get that praise and that people are like actually, you know, appreciating your art and telling you that they like it. You know, I think that's one of the biggest things as an artist is to hear that, especially from your peers and also from the collectors. You know it when your art is selling and the collectors are buying it. You know that they're appreciating it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a good feeling, especially when people, you know, like, yeah, they connect with it, right? Like at the end of the day, um, and I don't, you know, I know some people are buying stuff to flip it. It's fine, whatever,
Yeah,
do what you
true.
got to do.
Mhm.
It's part of the ecosystem. But when people buy it and they're like, well, I'm never gonna get rid of this, you know, like
Yeah.
you've connected with, you know, a piece of work. So, um, those are really special. And this space in general has been really great in terms of the ability to connect with people who collect the work that we do. Because and I can't stress this enough. Like if you're an artist and you're in this, I'll say Web3 ecosystem, but like really any ecosystem. If you're an artist and you have the ability to have a conversation with the people who collect your work, do it if you can. Obviously, everybody's got their own thing and they're like not comfortable, then don't do it. It is what it is. If you have the ability on any level to find a way to just simply thank the person who collected your work, it blows my mind. I hear this all the time from collectors that it didn't it just made sense to me. Someone collected my work, I would reach out to them if I could, and I would thank them. And apparently a lot of people are not doing that, which is wild to me, because it's the base level of respect. But outside of the next step to that is like, you can have a relationship with these people who cared enough to want what you've done.
Right.
You know,
and they're going to be fans for life. They're going to continuously buy your art. You know, making that connection. It's different. It's a different, it's like, yeah, it's just different. I could tell
be a
you,
good person, right? Like it's not that hard.
Gratitude is altitude. You know, it's like the more gratitude you have, you know, it's just common humanity. It's just humanity the way it's supposed to work, you know. But I want to chime in on something you said too, though, about, and it reminded me, I'm going off track here, but I think it was a band called Space Hog back in the 90s. They had a song called Space Junk or Space Trash. I forget. But anyway, I forget the name of the band, but anyway, but you were mentioning about just minting everything. And when I first got into this space, I was like, I don't feel like any of my stuff is ready to actually, I don't want to mint it yet. But at the same time, I feel like I should learn. I should, you know, fuck around and find out. I should learn how to dabble with manifold and this and that. So I experimented with a couple short things, but I love what you said about being mindful about what you mint. And I don't think, you know, I'm not throwing shade on anybody who likes to do it the other way and just mint everything too. But it did make me think of this song called Space Trash, because even though this is the digital realm, it's like, it's just like Spotify, like we were saying earlier, with there's more songs uploaded today than a human can actually listen to. Now, if these are all creations that people really, you know, made from the heart, and they want to put it out there, that's great. But sometimes I feel that society today is so hell-bent for their self-worth being based on their output volume. And I know that's the new meta of life. It's all output. It doesn't matter how hard you work. It matters your output. I get that. And sometimes I'm too far in the other direction. I'm worried so much about other shit that I don't output nearly enough. But there is a balance to it. And I don't think, like, it's refreshing for me to hear somebody say that they're mindful of what they output. Like, they work all the time, but they don't have to output it all. And I think I think things would be a lot less saturated and more organically cultivated and curated if everybody thought that way, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of value in being selective, self-curating. And sort of like, you know, when I put something on chain, I feel like that's a, you know, it's a finished product, right? Like, I'm not, even if I could, in some, you know, some places you can go and you can change the metadata. Regardless of that, it's, to me, it's like, it's the stamp, it's done. This is the thing that's hanging up. It's the painting. It's the finished product. It's what it is. And so I'm all too happy to share unminted stuff, you know, whether that's final pieces that I've just never planned to put on chain or not, or, you know, works in progress. But when it gets to the blockchain, that's where I'm like, we're done. This piece is a finished piece that I feel confident in, you know, allowing it to be collected. And there are things that I've put on the blockchain that I didn't put up for sale, that I've just put as a record, as like, this is for me, this is done. And then, you know, there's some stuff that I put up for sale and then it didn't sell. And I said, you know what, I'll take that down. That's for me. And I did that with a piece lab when I first got in my first super rare piece, my Genesis on there. And I put that out. That was the end of 21. And it didn't sell. I've sold Sins on super rare, but my Genesis sat unsold. And after a little while, I just took the price off, and some people just didn't even know it was available as a thing. And I just kept it for myself until the end of 24. Someone reached out to me and said, is it available? And I was like, well, technically it is, you know, if you really want it.
Yeah.
But I was also very comfortable with it just being for me,
Now, what about the marketing aspect? You mentioned something there. People didn't see it; they didn't know it was available. As an artist, how do you approach the marketing aspect? How do you approach getting the word out that your product is out, or or leading up to the product or project? How are you tackling that aspect of the sale of the art?
It's good. It's a good question. It it's a lot, right? So before I have something that's coming out, whether it's a one of one or a collection, um, after once I know it's a thing, it's going to be minted, it's going to be out there for sale. Um, I sort of like slow roll out either sneak peeks or kind of like talk about the thing for
Mhm.
like about a week before it drops. Um, but I'm also very aware that if I do marketing too far in advance, the goldfish brain, nobody's paying attention, right?
Mhm.
So like if I'm and to the point, if I'm on Monday, I'm like, this is dropping on Friday. I've learned that that's too far away. you
Wow.
know, but
Wow.
I've also learned that talk about it on Monday, talk about it on Tuesday, talking about it on every single day. And so basically, like I'll make like little promo packages, or whether they're little videos or GIFs or text, or whatever. I just have my plan is, a mixture of having stuff in the can ready to go to talk about it, and just in general, like kind of like off the cuff being, tweeting about it, relating it to other things if it's related.
Yeah.
If you go on spaces and talk about it,
Yeah.
shows.
Do you run that like, okay? So I'll revert this because I'm not in the art world, but I'm in the music world. And
Mm,
then so like with music, when there's a new album coming out, we have a new project coming out, and we hire a publicist. The publicist does her work for 3 months, his work for 3 months, gets us radio interviews like this. We're doing talk shows, we're
yeah.
performing as well. We're doing magazine interviews, things like this leading up to the album to get the album, awareness of the album and build the hype around it. Is this something like, I know you were saying it's such a short, situation, but have you ever dabbled with dealing with a publicist in the promotion or the marketing aspect of a release of one of your projects? Or is this something that you just haven't, it doesn't exist in
I
your
mean,
world?
there's people have agents and people have marketing, agents and connections like that. It's certainly a thing. It's just I have not needed to, or like it's sort of like I'm still one man band, in
Yeah.
terms of like output from start to finish. Um, it's a part of it that I don't love. A lot of us in general don't love it. It's a shit ton of work, like, and
Yeah.
it's exhausting.
Yep.
Um, I
And we've
haven't.
spoken about that. We've
What's that?
spoken about this. We've spoken about it where, you're a one man band, and it's just you can't do everything. You need a team to help you,
Yeah.
and you want to just do the art, right? Cookie, we talk about this a lot. Cookie's like, I just want to do the music. I don't want to have to fucking think about selling it. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? I'm
I
the
mean,
artist.
Buzzkill.
amen to that. It's just,
You know?
I also don't want to disrespect someone by paying them not what they're worth, right? So, like,
Okay.
if I can't, like, there's no guarantee that I'm gonna, you know, sell whatever collection, right? And because this is my full time, this is my main thing, I'm not always able to budget for the next one, right? Because the next one, I don't know if the next one's coming, in a week, 2 weeks, or 6 months. Like, I'm going to work on things, and they're going to come out when they come out.
Mhm.
I have, ideas of, my plans, but it's sort of like a little fluid. So that money gets filtered, into life. And so if I want a publicist or want someone to help me push it, first of all, that somebody has to be plugged into this space. I'm in a niche space. When in the Web3 thing is so specific, And frankly, even in the bear, it's even more specific in terms of like who's even collecting, who's even out there now. It's starting to come back a bit, but it's still, I'm fortunate that, you know, I have been able to do this for a while. But it's hard enough. So then to find someone in like in music, publicists like that industry is big enough and established enough that that makes a lot of sense. And so much so that there's likely budget friendly people who will do that.
Yeah.
You know, like because there's an abundance of that industry, right? Versus the niche that I'm in. I mean, it's don't be a jerk to anyone because you're gonna be on shows, you're gonna meet people, everyone you know
Yeah.
is your connection, is your potential to, like, you know, you meet someone and a year later they're like, oh, I'm running shows, and you're like, great, I got a drop, you mind if I come and talk about it? You know, like that's, you're your own and best promoter.
Yeah.
And you know, you can work as hard as you can, you still can't guarantee an outcome. I'm not gonna,
True.
I don't like the idea of not being able to pay someone what they're worth. And so I don't like the idea of engaging someone knowing that I can't pay them what they what they would
What they
want.
want. Yeah.
And so I would sooner just do it myself. I'm scrappy. I'm doing everything myself for years
Same.
anyway. Like it's, you know, and also I'm honestly, I'm fortunate that I've got a background in marketing. I've got a background in, you know, in animation, in video production, photography, video, like
It
all
helps.
of the
It helps a
things.
lot.
I'm very fortunate that I can do. Like I do my own sound design. I do my own, like whatever it is. I'm fortunate. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's annoying, but I can just do it. You know,
Yeah.
like.
I got to ask a question, and it's totally a selfish question, but I have to ask it because of all your hats that you do, wear the marketing, the animation, like I love all that stuff, and your art, and you being a one-man band. I have to ask him, Hef, music NFTs. No, but listen, seriously, no, but hear me out though. Like it's, to me, it's quite obvious the value and the coolness of when you look at this collection that we just looked at of yours. Like you can see it all makes sense logically. Like this is a blockchain, like, you know, native collection. It's
Mhm.
digital art. It just makes sense, and it's like collecting something that is kind of exquisite. You know, it's like a collectible piece. It's a one of one, like you said, and it makes so much sense. Have you ever thought, or do you ever think, like in music, like, is there any way that music can be displayed this way? Because to me, it seems like people are so used to free music. And I want to add something else too. So many pieces of value on the blockchain that are visual art pieces are CCO, but it doesn't
Mhm.
matter because we know the sovereignty of the blockchain and people that collect them. And even though it can be all over, we get the fact that no, but that person owns it. You know, that person
Yeah.
bought it. So is there any way for music to kind of have this type of thing? Have you thought of this?
No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, of course I've thought of this. I'm fortunate to be friends with a bunch of incredibly talented musicians who are in the NFT space. And so like, like Ed Balloon, Pat Dimitri, you've got a lot of people who are super talented musicians who have explored in different ways, in different blockchains and different ideas to make this work.
I want to
And
interject real quick on that
yeah,
before you go any further. We have both of them on our show, and they're both super talented.
Mhm.
And like Pat,
they're so good.
like Pat, though, not only does he do the music thing, but he's also an exceptional visual like artist
He
as well.
is, and he
So that
understood.
kind of ties in to it. Now, Ed, and now we get to Ed.
Me
Ed's
too.
music is super cool. It's super original, super unique.
Yeah.
But he might not actually be the hands-on with the visual, but he has the concepts. And like that whole Run Ed Run thing he did. And oh my God, the piece that's
So good.
pinned to his profile, if you check out
Yeah.
his profile, it's just crazy concepts and like awesome. But what I'm saying is they still, even though they're awesome music, the music's awesome in its own right, it's equally as visual as
Yeah.
well. You know?
All right. So I'm definitely just on the onset. I should say I'm out of my depth when I can speak to what's good for a musician to do on chain, let alone to do anywhere, because that's just not who I am in my background. But of course, I've got thoughts on it, right? I respect the hell out of the guys who are doing it. I think it is sadly an uphill battle. I think Pat did a fantastic job with his drops that he's done. Pardon. I've collected different things from him over the years. He's done things where I don't know the names of the apps for it, but where I collected and I was able to put a comment into a timestamp, and all I got was I got a visual. I didn't get any animation or anything. It was just the song, and that was fine. I did it because I liked the song and I like Pat and I wanted to support. Then Pat went ahead, he learned 3D software, and the man just he's a beast. He did some great stuff.
It was cool. That one, what was that one drop he called with the 3D piece? That was really cool, man.
I apologize, I don't remember the name, but I know, but it was if you can find it, great. Yeah. It was phenomenal, and he did a damn good job. But look how much extra work he had to do as a musician, right? That's that part kind of sucks, is that he had to do that, right? Because like you said, people are used to free music. People are used to music in general has been so devalued. It's my hat's off to anyone who's pursuing music in any form, because it's brutal seeing what happened to that industry. And so I think, and I've talked to other artists and both musicians and not about this, and I think that where some of the benefits for music related NFTs come in the form of perks and extras, whether it's album art, or it's tokens that if you burn them you get a t-shirt, or you get signed merch or special stuff that you couldn't get any other way, or if you put out right now rodeo is blowing up, right? Rodeo is a big deal, and part of that is you can have goofy in terms of goofy prices, right? Like 30 cents to the artist. That's dreadful in terms of making a living, but what you can do with that for music NFTs is you can make a flyer, right? So now you've got the new album coming out, or album or really cool flyer that whether you made or someone else made, that you can put up concert flyer, right? And you get 10,000 people to collect it, or 800 people to collect it, and for pennies, and they just get it. And I could see that being a really cool thing. I have books upstairs that are just album it's just posters, really dope posters, and it's hundreds of pages of incredible posters over the last 30 or 40 years.
It's amazing.
And they're great.
Do you have any Bill Graham? Any of those Bill Graham promotions? Grateful,
No, I know what you mean. I don't, but I'm not going to go right now because it's too far away. I would go right upstairs and grab this book, because this book is just, it's so good.
What's the name of the book?
I think it's 100. Look, give me a minute.
I don't want to kill you for it. But,
okay.
If you got it, if you know it by memory, it's fine. If not, don't stress it. We'll figure it out. We'll find it.
Brain. I'll side Google it as we're talking. It's so good though. All right. So, but the point is,
find it.
Look up. I don't think I think it's more than 100, but look up 100 posters, 100 music posters, art book. Look up all those things. It's a very colorful cover, and it's huge. And also each page you can rip out. They're perforated. You can rip out. Cool. What's that?
Is it The Art of Rock by chance?
Maybe. I don't know if you want to side chat that to me in private chat or whatever.
I'm just looking around.
So good. But to the point is that if I was a musician, I would either work with an artist to make me a poster for whatever song. Like you could do this for a song. It doesn't matter if it's not a concert. You got a song, you got a single, you have a couple of singles, you know, whatever it is, make a dope poster, whether it's you making it or your friends making it or who knows what, and then market your album. You know, I'm releasing it on Spotify, I'm releasing it on Apple, and whatever it is, but use this as the gateway to, you know, promote it. Because it's not just, you could just put this on Instagram and people scroll, who cares? But like, that's something that I would like to collect. That's something that I think would be fun to collect, to have a whole rodeo collection of just art from music posters, like music venues or music concerts, or, you know, someone's album and each song has its own poster. Shoot, that's awesome. Like that's a use case to me.
You know, I want to add to that real quick. It's kind of funny, but you know, a couple years ago during, I guess it was So Hef, remember like the Cheech and Chong drop?
Oh yeah. I have that. I get those posts. I get those.
Well, so okay, you know, people have mixed opinions, whatever. But what they did was, and this was actually really cool. They had all the real like concert poster artists drop monthly, like different illustrations. And, you know, whatever the price of that project was and whatever people clown the artwork in that, the posters that they were dropping, man, some of them were really cool. And it totally took me back to the days of like those 70s rock posters, those 80s rock posters. And I was like, man, this shit is legit. Like these are legit concert poster makers making these things. And it was very cool.
I found
it.
Anyway,
Found the book.
I found the book. All right, it's called Gig Posters. Rock show art of the 21st century. Here, I'll do the
cool. Oh yeah.
So gig posters. If you just want some inspiration, like it's so good. Damn good book. And like I said, you could rip out the paper.
Really cool. This reminds me of the Bill Graham stuff. So this was, I don't know if you heard of the name Bill Graham. Bill Graham was a huge concert promoter, San Francisco. This guy was like OG. And I'm talking like Jimi Hendrix, Grateful Dead, all of those really cool art posters that are selling for thousands of dollars today. The original ones, if people still have them. Just amazing. There's another guy. It's just awesome that you were talking about album art, that we got to album art, because it's really important. Album art, I think, is the art and the music do go hand in hand.
They do, and they always have, right? Like, so when we talk about how like music, you know, musicians putting up their art and not wanting it to just be visual stuff, like the reality is, it's like I used to buy, you know, I have records, I have, you know, cassettes, I have, you know, CDs, all the stuff had album art. It all had, and some of the best ones. Yeah. Like that's so great.
So this is a guy by the name of Jim Pollock. Okay. And I found Jim Pollock because I'm a huge Fish fan. Here's Fish actually here. And so Jim has been making the album covers and the posters for Fish. Look at this. Look at that.
That's gorgeous.
And here's just the drawing.
Yes.
The sketch of it. So this I've never really went to his page to see, but I'm telling you, this guy has done some incredible art. His name is Jim Pollock. Check him out on your own. You know, I don't want to put too much because we got Adamtastic.
It's all good. I'm like, you know, I don't know if people know, but I got a show where we just feature artists, so I'm very comfortable promoting other artists. I'll do it all day if I could.
I want to see an Adamtastic. I want to see a Cookie Rabinowitz concert poster from Adamtastic. Yeah.
I'll just put it out right here. When I come up with the right song, I'm totally gonna shoot my shot. I'm gonna send it to you and be like, "What do you think? You gonna do a cover for this for me?" I'm gonna make sure. I'm going to curate it. I'm going to self-curate though before I send it to you, because I don't want you getting any space junk in your chat, your email from me.
I was rocking out to that song on the intro, man. It's dope. Let's do it. I think that's how it goes though, right? Like and that's another avenue, whether it's collaborations or not. Like and also when people look at album art and like, you know, if you're musicians, you're like, I don't know how to pick up a pencil, because like I get that, where I'm like, I don't know how to pick up a flute, you know, but I do know how to take some pictures. I do know how to do, like, you know, some basic stuff, right? So there's tools that are available that if you really wanted to, you could make something, right? Like, and I hate to say it that it, but that I think is a good use case for music NFTs related to the blockchain, because there's a song like the blockchain, just, it's still, I think the biggest problem is society, and we've like, the ship has sailed on people valuing music the way they once did. And so I think that the next step to that is how do you get people to value what that person does in any way that's related back to what they do. Like, I don't know if I just spoke in circles and made any sense at all, but that's where I think, like, if I'm a musician and I can't draw, but I know I got a phone and I got a camera phone and I can take a cool picture of, it doesn't even matter, but just take a picture of myself doing something or set something up. And that's my album art, or like you can go to MS Paint and you just write the name of the thing, and it'll feel punk because it's like lo-fi, it'll just look, it's what it is. It's you, it's who you are. It's what you're able to do and what you're expressing, and use that as promotion to tie back to your album. If you want to be in this world, I just don't know that it makes the most sense to be minting songs and hope that that's how you're gonna, because you can, and you'll have editions that people have done it. It can work. I just don't know if it's the most feasible. But like, there's like, there's a song that Ed Balloon made years ago, and I was mad that it was collected by someone else. And but I bookmarked it, and I played it all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to it for free, but I would have bought it. But at the time it was collected, and I was like, all right, well, that's fine. But I didn't look at it like it was gone. But also, the reality of music is that you don't need to pay for it to listen to it most times.
Right.
And so musicians,
But I want to add to this though, and I love your take on all this, but it's funny because we're still basically saying that you have to leverage visuals against the music. Now, I also want to say this too. Now, and I'm not arguing with it. I think you're right. But the point I wanted to make with that too, though, is for some reason, and I'm talking about my own feelings towards this, but I think it's the majority too. For some reason, with visual art, like, you can listen to a song and not own it. But for some reason, when I see a visual piece by an artist, I like looking at some of those pieces I saw in your collection today. Like, I can look at them anytime I want, but I'm like, but there's something to it. Like, yeah, it would be way cooler to say that you owned it, though.
You owned it, yeah.
But not so much with a song, though. And I am a songwriter. I'm a song lover, but I don't know why. I don't know why the mentality is there.
I think the reason is because of the democratization and stripped away, like, all the things that got stripped away with music. Like, music was on the radio, and if you wanted to hear it, you couldn't hear it on demand. You had to do a record. Like, I mean, I was doing recordings off the radio, right? Like, there were some songs that I would just like record off the radio and make a mixtape that way, and I didn't pay for those songs, right? Like, that was not illegal. It was a thing you could do. It was just time intensive and kind of annoying, but you put love into it. You did it, right? Other times you would buy music because you just wanted to listen to the whole album, right? Right. There's a lot of songs that come out now that are singles that don't have a whole album attached, and so there's and one of the cool things about buying music back in the day was you had album art attached to it. Like, it always, like, it was part and parcel. It's not that it's like a new thing to try to tie these things together. There was always album art.
True, 100%.
I want to add to that too, because there's a lot of cool albums that had posters.
Yeah.
And, even there was cool stuff that would be. I remember I when I was a kid, I was a big fan of Kiss, and I got the album for like Hanukkah or Christmas, whatever. Like it was Kiss Alive 2, and it had these tattoos, and I was like, put the tattoo. You remember this, bro? Cookie remembers this, and so it just doesn't. This doesn't happen. You don't get that anymore. Dude, we used to read the liners. I used to look at it and go, who's the producer? Who's the sound engineer? What's his mixing engineer? Like, who's the mastering guy? So I would look to see all these names. I would read the friggin' thank yous.
Yeah, you're reading the liner. Yeah.
No one does this anymore.
You don't do it anymore because it's
aspect. Yeah.
When music went digital, right? I mean, people want to, blame Napster, but the reality is the digitization of music made it so easy and effortless to have any song at your fingertips. Overnight, it just music lost the value overnight in terms of like. That said, and then there are companies that definitely took advantage of musicians after. You've got the big companies that offer you the ability to buy music on their platform give pennies to the artist still, which is insane. And so it's that mentality is what I think has led to this. And that's why I think when you look at like the blockchain, you're like, well, what can I use this for? How can I make, I don't know that it makes any more sense than putting that song anywhere else, like on your own personal website saying, come and buy my music here. If you want to support an artist, you're going to support an artist if you can support them.
Let me ask you a question.
Like I buy songs. I do buy songs, on Apple Music. I know that a lot of that does not go to the artist, but I know that some of it does, right? Like I know it's
no. I mean,
but
the amount goes to the artist if you buy it.
But the way I justify that is it's better than, like, if the artist is telling me that's where to go to get it, right? Like they don't have their own personal website and where I'm going to buy a physical or a digital download of their own. If that's not the case, and the case is if they say, go to Apple and download my music, I'll go there if I really want. Like I bought new music recently I am in love with, and I heard it and I just said, I got $3, I got $5. I wish that more of that money would go to the artist. Yeah. But in the system that I'm in, I could choose to pay them something or nothing, right? Mm-hmm. I could listen to these things on YouTube, for free because you can. Or I don't know, and maybe this is just the artist in me knowing like what an artist's life is like. I'm like, I'm gonna pay you something because your shit's awesome and I respect you. Like I'll put it out like.
Much respect to that. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Without giving away too much here, we've been we've been doing the show for over a year, and so we're coming from that musician side as well as the fan side, and so we're conceptually working on a product. I want to ask you as a consumer of music, if you had an opportunity to have the streaming platform that you're using be free, like you might be paying $9 a month, but you engage to earn, you deal directly with the artist, with the musician, where the musician can set certain things in the sense of like where you can maybe get a playlist, maybe get the drumsticks, maybe get some picks, maybe get an actual real guitar or a drum set or actually meet and greet, things like that.
Drugs, get some of the artists' drugs that they're doing.
Yeah. But like, we're just trying to figure out in the sense of like the model, because we know that you can get the music for free everywhere, but there are real people that are out there like yourself that want the money to go to the artist. And if there was something that was like this, where you are paying for it, but you're actually doing certain things, maybe you bought a song and that adds points to your engagement, engaging and earning, would that turn you on? Would that be something better, knowing that the money that you're spending on that artist is actually going to them, but also you're getting rewarded for it. Like your monthly fee might be paid for, or you might be able to get some cool shit in return for your engagement. Would that be something that turns you on, or do you look at that and say, nah, that it's just, how is that going to work? You know?
That's interesting, man. I'm a weird case because I think the only one in America who doesn't pay for Spotify. Like, I don't have a Spotify membership. I think the only one.
I don't have it. Fuck.
Okay.
I use
Yes.
YouTube.
Two
I have
of us.
YouTube Premium. So
I don't have YouTube Premium. I still have ads, but
Okay.
I'm also. But here's
I can't do. I can't fuck the ads. I can't do it.
I hit mute. I don't know. I hit mute and I walk away. I mean, I do. I got Amazon has some music. I don't.
Yeah.
But that kind of like, for what it's worth, the logic here is it comes with the other shit that I got, right? Like I get like a, paper towels are coming, and because of that, you also get music. And I'm like, wow, we really just don't like musicians, do we? This is not helping anyone. But like, if you have Spotify, right? I didn't even think about this, but like, probably because I don't have Spotify, I justify my brain. I'm like, I want to pay an artist if I hear a song that I'm like, that's a really good song. Oh, I like the album. Oh, I go and I buy it on Apple, right? I go and I buy the album. So I have at my fingertips whenever the hell I want to listen to their song. And when I like a song, I play it until I never want to hear it again. Like I will play the shit out of it.
Play it.
And if I wonder if if a person has a music subscription specifically for music, that they would maybe not go and do that, right? Because they're like, I don't know how on demand is Spotify. Does anyone? I don't know. Can you?
So I want to preface this by saying that I am a piece of shit, and so not only do I use Spotify and I'm a musician, so I'm a double piece of shit. I'm a triple piece.
You're
of
a self-hating musician.
I'm a triple piece of shit because I DJ at a club that's supposed to be paying ASCAP and BMI and everything. And we're not supposed to use Spotify. I use Spotify to actually DJ at the club I'm getting paid to DJ at.
On a public stream? Shush.
Well, you know,
as your lawyer,
I just made all that up. But also, but I offset it. My karma offset is when I hear artists creating that don't even have their music on Spotify and aren't getting paid from Spotify because they don't get enough streams. If I hear something and I genuinely like it, I pump that in the club just like I would, a marquee name, a top 10 hit or whatever. And I let people know, and people come back. When they tell me about it, I let them know who it is. And I do this regularly. And I kind of look at it the same way. Years ago, when I was, not doing as well, I used all cracked software. And I always had the intention. I didn't think that was fair either. I think the creators of this software, I think they deserve, they're creators too. But my intentions were, I'll use this software. I don't have any money, but if I ever make money, I will support the software that is not just space junk. And since then, I don't use cracked Ableton anymore. I use paid for Ableton. I use paid for, actually just recently dropped my Adobe because I'm not a visual guy. I do need to use Photoshop quite a bit, but I switched to GIMP, which is a free program. But with that said, what I'm saying is I do have a method to my immorality. I'm not just a straight up piece of shit. But I want to say
there are ways of getting like, I don't know any art student who didn't use crack software at some point, right? But that was a lot of that is due to the limitations of cost and availability, and
for sure,
right? But then
Photoshop, before the subscription base, it was like $999. I don't even know. It was
they were like, "Here's a student discount for $800," and you're like,
"Yeah, it was like."
Thanks. But I've been to a bunch of those conferences with those types of companies. And they'll straight up tell you, we know you guys are using our software cracked, and we don't care because we know that you're going to get into the real world and you're going to need to use it for real. And the places that actually pay money to do productions are going to use them and get paid. We we recognize that you as students are going to steal our stuff because you're going to learn on it though. Like everybody who stole all the Adobe stuff learned on Adobe And then they went into the real world, got jobs using stuff with Adobe, and they knew what they were doing. So
The first one's always free, you know.
yeah, they know, man. But but if so, my answer is I don't pay for Spotify because I was like, I get music in so many ways and places, and if I really want to support an artist, I'll go and I'll get their album. If I knew that the platform, because like I know Spotify, like if it's bad, if it's bad when I buy on Apple and they're getting like $1 for every 10 I'm spending.
Mhm.
I know it's worse on Spotify. I mean, I
It's bad.
don't know if I'm unique in that, right? In terms of the general public who isn't a musician, I'm plugged in enough to know that it sucks there for artists.
Well, here's the thing, though. You're 100% right. I want to interject this. Sorry, but the platform, the user interface, it's a great engine. It's a great thing for the user end, usability of it. Still,
okay. I mean, that's great. I'm glad. That's why they have a successful product, right? Like
exactly.
But is it good for discovery?
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not great, I think, but
because if it's not offering you this and similar, and the similar isn't just the mainstream, then it's not great for new artists. And it for whatever. The point being, if you're making a platform like a for artist by artist kind of thing, that's cool, right? Because then that changes the conversation from mega corporation who doesn't give a shit about the people making the content for them, which is insane,
right?
And it shifts the storyline to people who know how shitty it is out there are making something for people to do better, right? And so if that is something that I would look at, like just on the face of like, that's cool that there's rewards, but just on the face of this is made by artists because we don't like getting screwed over. We want to help artists. That's cool. Adding perks, that's even better, right?
Yeah.
Like I do think there's value in that.
Yeah, that's the motto.
Yeah, I think there's value in it for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how many. But the reality also to that is then you're likely, it'll be great for discovery for new artists, but it'll mostly be new artists, right? Like it'll be indie, which is really cool. But if you are, but the masses like what the masses are fed, right? So it's a harder sell, and that's why it's probably really smart to have things like perks. So I don't know. I've always loved and appreciated new music, finding new artists. Like anytime I had projects that I could bring artists into, or musicians, or like in another life, I was finding musicians. Like I was discovering stuff in another life, because that was something I've always enjoyed doing. And like going and if I find an artist or musician that I really like, I'm gonna buy their stuff because like I want more of their stuff to exist, and that's the only way that happens.
Yeah, it's very true.
There's an artist out there like for years that I was like, and I don't know, man. I get up in my head. I'm like, this person's. I can't believe I just heard this song. This person's going to be Beyonce in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like that kind of like, I'm like, how people haven't heard this yet. And like, that's where I want to have a bigger platform. I'm still not there. I want to have a bigger platform because I want to, like the artists that we help now that I'm helping with, like, visual artists. I want to help anybody who I think is dope. And like every little bit helps. But like, there are definitely artists where I'm like, man, I cannot believe it's been 7 years and this person hasn't blown up yet. But at some point, I won't be surprised.
It's like the same with music. There's so many songs, so many groups, so many good.
There's so much,
and a lot of it falls on deaf ears because they don't have the monetary. They
don't have the connection even. Like because so many times, there's talent that rises to the top, but sometimes it's just if you're not connected, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Although like social media has been helpful.
What's that?
Social media has been helpful for that. Like TikTok, you get people who are like blew up on there, and then it was like, big studios are like, oh, I guess we might want to hire you. And then the beauty of that is that person, if they're smart, they can decide whether or not they want to be a part of the system, right? Because like if they're doing it outside of it,
That's right. We had a guest on our show, Joey B, another great singer-songwriter. And I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking about like how exactly that, like how some people are on social media and their song goes viral, but they don't have anything to back it up because they didn't realize that the song was going to be what it is. So this was like maybe a one-off, and then the song got popular, and now people are looking for more stuff from that artist, but there was only that one thing, you know? And I was actually, there was a guy, I don't even know his name, but he had a song, and it was like, it got caught, you know, it caught wreck. It was like he was doing something, and then he would be like, right, in the song every once in a while. And so this song went viral on Instagram and social media and whatnot, and never had anything to back it up. Now he got paid because he went out and did shows. People were like, who is this guy? We need to have him, you know, because everybody was using the song on social media.
Right.
He goes to do a backup and he's fucking adding the in the fucking, it's like, what, you didn't do anything different. And he had nothing to back up. He had just that one little thing that he was probably goofing with his homies, and it went viral. So it sucks in that regard, but it's great if you're a real artist like Cookie and one of his songs goes viral. Now he's got fucking 10 albums. He's been waiting for that moment, right? Or any artist of that has been waiting for that moment to go viral, because now they have a plethora of music that they can offer everybody that people might want to hear, going to look for that, what else the artist has done.
Real quick, not to interrupt, F, but what was it he was doing again? I'm trying to.
It's a blessing and a curse going viral, though, right? Like, as if you're not ready for it,
That's what I mean.
Then you could be ready in like 3 years. You could be ready,
Yeah.
but if you're viral too fast, and then it's like, well, I don't. This is the first thing I did. I don't have anything else.
Yeah,
that's terrifying. And then I imagine it's on both sides. I don't know. There's I was on. I'm pretty sure it was probably TikTok, wherever I was, and when I came across artist Sophie Hunter, she's amazing. She's amazing, singing, rapping, and kicking ass, and like, and I got into there was a couple songs, and I was like, I went and I checked, and I was like, oh, you've got like an album that you just put out, dope, and I went and I bought it because like it's freaking awesome, and it's like, and it's you're right, like going viral, if you're not there and you don't have other stuff to back it up, then it's like, well, that's unfortunate, but I feel like that's going to get weeded out, and people are going to figure that out pretty quickly, right?
And that's what happened. So this guy, so he puts out this thing, and then everyone's dogging him. Like, what the fuck? It's like, you didn't do anything different. It's like, you're just giving us the same. What the fuck? First of all, if I got to try and find the song and then send it to you. And it's like, it was just funny that I'm talking about. He's like, it could be like, and I'm with Cookie, chilling with Adamtastic. And this song is crazy viral. You know what I'm talking about, Cookie?
I don't know, but it reminds me of Jay-Z, except for on the flip. He'd be like, if you like my old shit, listen to my next album.
Too good, too crazy. But yeah, you're right, Adam. This is like, if you're not prepared, then that's is what's gonna happen. You're gonna sink fast, So be prepared, man. Just be real, be a real artist, be prepared. Don't just be a one-off, one-hit wonder, because that's where you'll end up, with one hit.
Put in the work, man.
Put in the work, dude. Do the work. All right. So we have gone over time, but it's been such a great conversation. We didn't want to kill it or anything like that. We can, we're all Jews here, man. So we could talk forever, bro.
This has been one from the very moment we got in here. We said, we'll see you later. And it's been one big Jewish goodbye.
It's a Jew talk, matzo ball talk over here. But no, Adam, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. You have open door policy with us. Anytime you know anything that's new that's coming, we'd love to have you come back on, and so we can plug it. And it's just been a good break for us from the music stuff that we do all the time, and to have someone like yourself, which is an amazing artist, to chat with us. And we talked about a bunch of different stuff, so thank you for your time and everything. I want to give you the mic to plug anything, or tell everybody what's new, and I have some stuff where they can find you, but I'll let you take the mic. It's all yours.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Thank you. First of all, like, Cookie, thank you for having me. This has been
Pleasure.
so much fun. I really could do this. Like, I could keep going. I have like notes from like the first half of your show where I'm like, ooh, but we didn't talk about that yet.
You want to? Hey, we don't have to run, but I mean, if
No,
you
we're
want,
good. We want to give people a complete show. It's okay. Otherwise, it'll just be like, I'll be right back. I go to the bathroom. I'll see you in a minute. Well, just leave it rolling.
yeah.
But no, I appreciate it. It's been great. It's I very much I've been on gratitude, right? So like, thank you. I accept the nice things you've said about me. I thank you very much. This has been a pleasure. If people want to find me, I'm at Adamtastic on everything except for TikTok, but that'll be gone in a day, so don't worry about it. And outside of that, if you're looking for, like I said, we were talking about it. Thanks so much for talking about the Intangibles project. It's still minting. It's my pinned tweet on X, and that's where people can find me. I'm up on Instagram also, and all the things. But yeah, it's I'm excited for all the things that are coming up. Like I said, I'm working on a new project that I've been doing for months now. I just don't know how or when I'm going to drop it. But in the meantime, Intangibles is still a very special thing. So if anybody out there likes it or knows someone who might be interested, check it out.
That's right. We put the link up. It's scrolling here. I'm going to leave it up there till the end of the show. Definitely check that out. Adamtastic, one of the most amazing artists in our time today, and just a pleasure. Cookie Rabinowitz, always my brother, from another mother. Appreciate it, you being here with me as well and sharing the mic with us. Anything that you want to say before we get out of here, Cookie?
I just want to thank both of you. Adam, man, what a treat and what a pleasure. Like I said, man, your art is so cool. You're so cool. Appreciate you here. And I really appreciate your takes on music and just being a creator, being an artist as well. It definitely inspired me a lot in my own. Like I said, I'm kind of selfish that way. Like, I feel like I got a lot of inspiration from you. So I'm going to carry it with me in what I do,
Excellent. And then I'll figure out too. I'm gonna mint one of the intangibles, and I need to figure out which one it is, and I'll post it. Obviously, I'll tag you when I do. Yeah, I want to thank everybody also for tuning in. This has been another episode of Jus Riffin. We do this every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, powered by Rug Radio. We love Rug Radio. Big ups. Thank you, Adam, again. Thank you, Cookie Rabinowitz. This is Jus Riffin. We'll see you soon. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Jus Riffin. Tuesday night, 8:30 EST. Know where we be. Jus Riffin. Special guest and tech and talk. A musicology. Jus Riffin. Coming to you live at the same time. Here every week. Jus Riffin. Jump in the room. Let's chop it up. It really ain't that deep. Jus Riffin.